How's it going, guys? It's Al. Once again, it's Friday, and I'm going to talk with my Twitch chat, my subscribers here on Twitch. We're going to go over the NFL slate for this week, Week 8 on DraftKings. I'm going to take their questions, what they want to talk about, whether it's a 1v1, a 2v2, players that they're having problems making decisions between, looking at different price ranges, possibly some strategy questions, anything that they want to talk about, I'm here to talk about. I take their questions, help them out with their lineups. Then we do it all over again on Sunday morning on the Anti-Tinkercast, the last 45 minutes before lock, live right here on Twitch. The link to my Twitch channel is right down below in the comment or in the description. Just click show more. You'll find the link to that and all my other socials as well. We'd love to see you here. Appreciate you guys being on YouTube. Click like on this video. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We'd love to see you back, and make sure you ring the notifications bell so that you can get a little that little bell on the top of your screen will ring. You can get something in your inbox, or if you have YouTube app on your phone, it'll pop something up every time I come out with new content for NFL or NBA, all the way through overlap season and after the Super Bowl. So thank you guys for being here. Let's get to the chat. So we've had some news come out today. We have a lot of questionables. We have certain things to go over. I kind of think it's a little bit of a straightforward slate. Is Jordy Nelson cash game viable? Fringe. I think he's fringe cash game. Like, I'd rather not play him, but I understand that you're going after, like, his snaps aren't going to be the ones that really escalate. I think his target percentage is going to be what his target percentage is. I think somebody like Martavis Bryant sees an uptick in snaps, especially with Seth Roberts not really practicing yet in full with the concussion. We have to see if he's active or not. The biggest volume increase in terms of snaps played, routes run, and more than likely targets is Martavis Bryant. Maybe Jordy sees a couple extra targets. Maybe Cook goes from 4 or 5 targets a game up to 6 or 7 targets a game. But realistically speaking, the biggest jump is for Bryant. Back to the Wellwood Curse. I think he's in play again. Whether or not you want to put your eggs in that basket, whether you're in the never again crowd, his role is there. If last week is either going to be, it's going to go one of two ways. Last week is going to be an outlier, and you're going to say, wow, what happened that week? Because the slot keeps getting peppered with targets, and he's playing 40, 50% of the time in the slot and 90% of snaps. Or it's going to completely change. You're going to go, wow, why did I not go back there? I haven't made my decision where I'm going to be yet on that one. So you're saying fade Gurley this week in cash? Nope. I think he's one of the 6-7 running backs in play for cash with one of the core 4 probably that most people are going to utilize in cash, especially on DK where he's not priced up at a point that makes it impossible. Can you fade any high-priced running backs for Lindsey or Johnson? If Theo Riddick is out, I think that Johnson becomes more cash game viable. Okay? At 5,300, he actually will open up some other things. Patricia, obviously a defensive coach. Defensive coaches do like to establish the run. He's just been doing it with multiple people. Don't expect him to get any carries when they go to the jumbo package inside the 5. Those are all LeGarrette Blount's carries. That's just the way that goes. As far as Lindsey, if we get, is Freeman completely out? I missed that. I know that he's doubtful. I know that it's possible that he sits. If he sits, then yes, I like Lindsey a lot better. Robbie Anderson list is doubtful. Hurdy's out. He hasn't practiced at all so far this week. So obviously when I write my article on Wednesday and I prep for it on Tuesday, no practice reports are out yet. So if he's out, then out. Freeman's officially out, just ruled out. Okay, good. So then, yeah, Lindsey and Johnson are both in play for me. Lindsey in the better scoring environment. Johnson with the more steady role in the offense. I like Lindsey. I think that he's very good. Thank you very much, Chad. I appreciate you guys keeping me up to date with stuff because, like, I can do my prep all the way up until about 15 minutes before we go live. And I, have so many windows open to do this stream. So thank you for letting me know that he went out after I went live. Yeah, so Lindsey takes a significant bump. Where was that donation? Sorry, I missed that one. S. Boynton with 100 bits. Thank you very much. Says Rodgers plus Lindsey or Dalton and DJ for FD cash. Probably Rodgers and Lindsey. And I don't know Lindsey's price on FD, but I assume it's pretty cheap. DJ's an interesting one to talk about. I think he's priced up on DK at a place where, being over 1,000 more, 1,400 and 1,500 more than Kerryon Johnson and Phillip Lindsay, that it puts him in a spot where we think that they're going to utilize him in the right way with Leftwich now calling the plays and McCoy out. But how much can they really install an entirely new offense and usage for David Johnson? I'm hoping and praying that they do, because as one of my favorite players and one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, I want to see him do David Johnson things again, and smashing him into the line between the guards is not the way to make that happen. D Damrun with the 200 bits says, sorry late to the show. Feelings on Hunt versus Mixon versus Connor. For me, it's Connor, then Hunt, then Mixon. In that order. Any interest in Gabriel or Fitz for cash? Probably not. I don't think that we need them. Gurley, Johnson, and Lindsey spend up at wide receiver. You can. I don't know that you need to. You can, is what I'll say. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think that you could go with one of those two cheapies, one of the two 5Ks, bump up to one of the 3 7Ks that were just asked about with Gurley, and still get really good wide receivers. 1 or 2 of the stud wide receivers this week. CGV with the 200 bits, thank you very much, says T.Y. and Manny or AJ and Crabtree for DK. Give me AJ and Crabtree for me, personally. Do or will you ever do an NBA Q&A? No, because lineups lock is too intense for NBA. There's no way for me to be live right up until lineups lock. Like, a lot of it would be, okay, it's hard for me to schedule because, like, sometimes I just have to, be a dad and I can't be there. And on those days, I don't play NBA. The days that I do play NBA, a lot of it would just be me doing this. Just looking at Twitter. And then looking at my lineups. And then looking back at Twitter. And then looking at projections. So, it wouldn't be a Q&A. I wouldn't be able to, do a question and answer period. It's a lot of, right up until lock is just a lot of concentration in NBA. NFL, less so, because you have all the information an hour and a half before lock. And you've had most of the information for a week. And NBA requires a lot more concentration right around lock time. Please, and then, like I said, I couldn't have, a full schedule where I just say, okay, I'm going to be on at this time every single day, because sometimes stuff happens. I didn't post a video for NBA on Wednesday, and people are like, how come there was no video on Wednesday? Because I have to write an article, man. I got to spend all day writing an article and doing other content and other things. It's I can't do it. If-then statement. If Breida is out, then a cash play. Then who is a cash play? Mostert? I mean, if you think that his stuff's going to go up, then yes. Please rank these mid 5K running backs for cash. Kerryon, Lindsey, and Mack. What is Mack's price right now? He's the most expensive. He did practice today. Lindsey's been getting really solid work with Freeman there. Kerryon Johnson, if Theo is out, I think that right now, and I'm trying not to be flavor of the month here, with the new toy being the number 1, but I think it's very close between. I think that Mack is number 3. Out of this trio here, I think Mack is 3rd. But I think I like Phillip Lindsay better than I like Kerryon. A, more usage in the passing game. B, you would expect him to pick up the goal line work that he's lacking already with Freeman, so that just gives another thing to him. And Kerryon Johnson, if he gets 20 touches, I think is great as well for the price. But I think I would give Lindsey by a nose. Be putting my lineups together tomorrow night after the World Series in the hotel room at Disney. Hey, sounds like a good night. World Series at Disney and doing DFS lineups. That sounds like fun to me. Gurley, Connor, Lunn. What is Lunn? It's a no Gurley week with all the running back value. You could, people are definitely going to do that. Do you feel comfortable with your lineup without Gurley in there? Lindsey and move on. Yeah, probably. That's what I said. But I like Kerryon too. That's why I think it's him by a nose. I don't think it's like a slam dunk like I do with other questions sometimes. Gurley, Galladay, or Connor, AJ Green? Give me Connor, AJ Green. Lots of value, lots of mid-tier. I agree. Okay with Mahomes and cash. I don't think you can get to him optimally. I think you'll be giving up way too much at running back and wide receiver if you do that. He's just too expensive. And when you look at on DK how close all the wide receivers or all the quarterbacks are posted, right? 7K for him, and then it drops all the way down to Aaron Rodgers going up against the Rams. Andrew Luck against Oakland, 63. Dalton against TB. Roethlisberger at home against Cleveland. Winston putting up huge numbers. Goff at 6K. That 1,000 that you're going to save, 600 to 1,000, is going to go a long way just by coming down to the 6K guys. You know, there's a lot that you can do with 1,000 this week. Now, if you're like, you know what, I have all these other guys, like quarterback is like the position I spend the least time really thinking about. There's always quarterbacks you can project for 20 fantasy points. You know? It's like pick one that's in a good matchup that probably is going to be in a high-scoring environment. You can probably come up with 2 or 3, and if I can find, you know, Mahomes is amazing and one of my favorite players since I started doing research in April. I had targeted him. As you guys knew in season long, I had like 40% of my best ball teams have Mahomes in them. But in terms of salary cap, in terms of DFS, I'll take the savings and spend that on a volume position. Matt Stafford, cash game viable? He is, but it's tough. Hasn't had over 35 pass attempts in weeks. I agree. Thoughts on Cohen in flex for cash? I'm okay with it, but I'd prefer one of the other running backs in that 5K range now with the things that have kind of opened up, right? So, like, we have Tariq Cohen, who's getting, 10 to 15 touches a week, exclude the Tampa Bay game. 10 to 15 touches a week, pretty much. Most of them coming in the pass game. He's Christian McCaffrey from last season, essentially. From a statistical point of view, from a volume and usage point of view, that's what he is. But then you have more traditional running back usage here, getting 15 plus touches a game. If Theo Riddick is out, we can probably project for. You have Phillip Lindsay, who has been getting 15 touches a game, essentially, with Royce Freeman there most weeks, right? And putting up double-digit points most weeks. Now with Freeman out, you can assume that he will pick up the goal line work and a few more carries as well. He might be an 18 to 22 touch guy with goal line work and pass game work that he's sustained throughout the season. For 600 less. I'll take the volume at running back over the lower volume guy who's flashy. Beathard's going to win somebody the million this week. Calling it now. Okay, well, that would be some flop lag if that was the thing. Larry Fitzgerald or Kirk in cash? I would prefer Kirk if I was going with one or the other. Is Goff worth saving 400 from Rodgers? I don't hate it. I had a stat in Best Buys this week that, like, the Rams, and I mentioned it on the edge too, like the Rams, when a team scores over 20 points against them this year, Goff has averaged like 370 yards and 3 touchdowns. So, like, last year we used Goff. Remember, it was the whole Cobra Kai thing. You're using Goff because he was a schoolyard bully. Anytime that they were facing a bottom half pass defense, you played him. Anytime they're facing a top 15 in the league, top 16 in the league pass defense, you faded him. This year, it's when you think other teams can score. When other teams can score against the Rams, they have to keep the foot on the pedal, and he gets more, they're just more aggressive offensively. They don't just shut it down. My word about Booker getting the targets because of game script or Lindsey will stay in. Lindsey's been utilized a lot in the passing game so far, so I'm not worried about him losing his role in the passing game. He's seen 4, 5, 6, 7 targets in games so far this year. They're very happy with him in the passing game. Any way to fit Gurley, Hunt, Connor, and cash on DK? Yeah, but you might get ugly at wide receiver. I mean, it's possible. I don't know that it's optimal. Thoughts on Richard or Crowell in cash? I think that Crowell's better than Richard for cash. I think Richard is more of a tournament play for me. Emmanuel Sanders in cash. You could. If that's the route you want to go, I think he'll be lower owned in cash than some of the other players at his position. Goff minus Kupp is a big risk. I mean, Kupp is getting 6, 7 targets a game. I don't see why he's a big risk. Kupp's a very good player. Kupp is not Odell Beckham. Kupp is not, D-Hop. Kupp is not AJ Green. He is not Julio Jones. And he's a very good player. Top 3 sub 5K cash receivers are. Okay, that's very specific. Give me a second. All right, so sub 5K receivers for cash. Crabtree, love the volume that he's getting. Absolutely love the volume. He's not dominating the red zone targets. They're kind of evenly split, like 4 or 5 ways on Baltimore, but the targets are certainly there for 4,800. And where we're going to attack Carolina is on the outside. So I do like Crabtree. I know a lot of people want to play Nelson. I'm not totally against it. Watkins is all right. Godwin, fine. MVS only if, right? MVS is the permanent if-then statement. If Allison and Cobb are out, then MVS is cash game viable. Kirk, probably too fringy for me. I don't like where the price has gone, right? Let's just say that. I thought he was more palatable in this range. I'm not loving him at the mid 4K range. Fitz looks cooked. It could have been the offensive scheme. I do like the targets the last couple of weeks. I think on the Cardinals offense, I'm most happy to play David Johnson out of all of those guys. See, that's what I was saying. It's kind of thin this week at wide receiver. Are you willing to jump back on the Jermaine Kearse train? It's going to be a question that people are going to have to figure out, and I'll hopefully have a better answer for you by Sunday morning. Adams, Woods, Sutton viable for cash. Oh, Sutton's another one that I like this week. You're just here for the music. See? I need something in the background. Otherwise, it's just me and dead air. Like, I need something to, like, keep me happy for the rest of this podcast. Is essentially the way that, the way that I look at things. Like, I have to sit there with the music. Otherwise, the hour seems like it takes forever. Kittle Kelsey stack for all the money. Interesting way to go. I like that for tournaments. I read it but didn't answer it. Adam said wouldn't. Yeah, so I said yes. I think that Sutton's the other viable one there. I'd probably prefer to go to AJ Green over Adams. Thoughts on Chris Herndon's use in the red zone and picking up more snaps due to injuries? I mean, he has, and it's a thing. Cobb cash game viable if healthy. I don't remember the last time I've played Cobb in cash. And again, so, your own personal biases get into your decision making sometimes. And like Cobb is a guy that has always been for like 3-4 years has always been a tournament only play for me. He's just never a cash game play for me. A. Miller for cash, not really. Njoku, the cash tight end this week. There's a bunch of tight ends this week, so I can't say that there's just one that I want to play in cash. Like Kelsey, I don't think you can fit him in your cash game lineups. Kittle, also a little bit too pricey. Jared Cook, you guys know how I feel about Jared Cook if he's at 5K. It's just too much for the amount of volume that he gets. Trey Burton, finally getting volume, but he got it one game. Is it going to fall back to where it's been all through the season, getting 4 or 5 targets a game? I think that's more likely than staying at 11, but we shall see. Jimmy Graham, 4,700. I'm okay with him. Njoku, 4,600. You guys know how I feel there. I'm on the Njoku bandwagon, and I have been for a long time. I still think that look, Jared Cook's volume at 5K, right? He had 2 games where he had over 6 targets. 2 games where he had over 6 targets, as opposed to David Njoku for 400 less, who has had 1 game with less than 6 targets. Give me the volume, and I'll pay less for the volume against a better opponent that is giving up points in chunks to tight ends. OJ Howard at 3,900 is still too cheap, again, against a team that does not defend the tight end position very well, and you get big play upside, averaging the highest yards per catch at the tight end position. CJ Uzoma, people are looking for reasons to play this guy. He's not really involved in this offense, guys. I know that it's Tampa Bay. I don't know that I can trust him in cash. I hope that makes sense, right? Because I don't know that a full fade on CJ Uzoma is the thing, but I also don't think trotting him out in my cash game lineup is the thing. I would rather pay up the extra 400 to get to OJ Howard, who has a higher floor and ceiling, and Vance McDonald, probably the last one that I think is somebody that I would consider for cash games. going against Cleveland, getting a good amount of the market share of targets on this team, and only 3,700. So those would be all the tight ends that I think are viable for cash. Is it OJ over Vance? Chocolate and vanilla, which one do you like? It's a personal taste thing. Okay with Hunt and Lindsey in the same cash game lineup. Not against it. No, I think it's fine. See, here's the thing. It's people are going to ask me this all today on this show and then all Sunday morning. Okay? They're going to ask me this all Sunday morning. Rank these 3 7K running backs. And to me, it goes Connor, then Hunt, and then Mixon. In that order. And I think all 3 are cash game viable. But if you ask me to rank them, I think that that's the order that they rank in. That being said, well, do you like this Hunt lineup versus, with this other guy or this Connor lineup? Well, I like Connor better, so I'm going to like Connor better than Hunt. And that's just kind of where I stand. It's like I can guarantee that I'm going to get a bunch of 2v2s. Do you like Connor and this guy, or do you like Hunt and this guy? And this is what's happened every Sunday morning. The same guy is going to ask that question 5 times. Okay, now do you like Connor and that guy or Hunt and this other guy? Like, okay. Rank these cash QBs, Goff, Winston, or Dalton. I think that's the right order. Al, I just built a strong cash optimal with Stafford, Kelsey, value running backs, top 2.3 KD, and it's got AJ and Gurley. You're asking me for a 2.3K defense? Like what cheap defenses are in play? I think. Steelers at 2,300, always picking on rookie quarterbacks. I really like the Bengals at 2,500. Yes, Winston and the Bucs can put points on the board, but Winston also turns the ball over a ton via interceptions. He takes sacks. He drops the ball a lot. So he's a turnover machine. The last couple of weeks, 4 turnovers in each of the last 2 games himself. I'll always take defenses in those situations. Not sure that I want to play the Browns this week. I think I've played the Browns as much or more than any defense that I've played. So kind of a narrow band of defenses for me this week. At the really low end. Maybe the Lions, but I don't love it. If we're looking 2,500 and down. Oh, you're saying you can get up to Kelsey and remain fairly strong. Yes, I agree. I just think it's harder. What do you think of Hyde just turning flyer? Yeah, nothing more than that. Gurley and Woods in the same cash game lineup, or is it too thin? No, I think you're fine. I think you can do that. Any interest in Cannon and DKGPP? Yeah, Silva was talking about him earlier too. Adam was talking about him. He should see some snaps because they're not going to run Kroll out there for 90% of the snaps. So the kid's going to get some run. He's nothing more than a tournament play for me though. Favorite cash QB not named Mahomes? I went through all those guys. Rodgers, Goff, Winston. The last one of those, if you need to save a little bit, is Stafford. John Brown in cash? Probably not for me. I like him in tournaments, though. Goff and Cooks, fading Gurley, insane. I mean, fading him, like you're not playing any of him at all in tournaments, I think that's a little bit silly. But I do think you can build a cash game lineup without Gurley this week. Now, granted, if one of the other 7K running backs or the value guy that you look to doesn't put up a huge day, then people are going to start tweeting and you can't just let it get to you. Imagine people not playing Gurley today when Gurley hits his 30 points like he does every week. What if Gurley puts up like 22, guys? Right? Do you think it's possible that Todd Gurley can put up a 22-point week? I do. I also think it's possible he puts up a 42-point week. And that's why people play him, because his floor is essentially like 22, just like Saquon Barkley. Barkley hasn't scored less than 20 points in any game. No cheap QB is popping out to you for cash. Yeah, there's nobody at like 5K or anything, but there's a bunch at 6K. You're getting really, really super duper value from 5,600 to 6,400. And they're all bunched. So like DraftKings has kind of made it clear that like, guys, quarterback doesn't matter for fantasy the way that we have the scoring. So we're going to kind of make it pick 'em. Which increases the variance, right? We're not going to narrow down the field by making some of them cheap and some of them expensive. We're just going to bunch them all together, and now everybody's going to have different ones because everybody's going to have different opinions and biases. So I think Jalen Richard is still cash game viable with the Lindsey news. No, I don't think he was cash game viable with the Powell news. Once Powell was on IR, which was after my show on Monday, all of a sudden Crowell took the step ahead of Richard. Richard was easy target value for the Monday First Look show, where now he has taken a few steps back because there are other... He has not taken a few steps back. He is the same play on Friday that he was on Monday. Okay, let me say that. He's not a worse play now. There are just other plays that got better as injury news came out that has pushed them ahead of him in the pecking order, but he is still the same play. I still think he is a very good play this week and is in play for tournaments. I don't think you need him for cash now. Make Kansas City main slate again. They did! Rodgers versus Winston. Both are fine. Depends on if you need the savings. If you don't need the 400, I'd probably go with Rodgers. Favorite expensive wide receiver for cash. So 6,800 or more. 911 LS, thank you for the new sub. Fleck 56, which I missed earlier, and I know. I apologize. Thank you for the tier 1 sub as well. So go over the top tier wide receivers, and let's include 6,800 for Woods. So Woods, very, very good this week, right? You guys know how much I play Cup. Now you got Woods playing the Cup role, right? So, and by the way, the Cup right there, the chat named him Cooper. So if you do anything, if you donate to the channel, when you sub, see that sub? The little VIP badge falls right into Cooper. Cooper the Cup. There he is. Thank you, BBrez87. Thank you very much for the Twitch Prime sub. So 6,800 for Woods, I think, is an outstanding price. 6,900 for Cooks, also an outstanding price. Like him for tournaments. I prefer Woods for cash games, so I'm going to go with one of those two. Jarvis Landry going against Pittsburgh, plays a lot of his routes from the slot, plays a lot of his snaps from the slot. Say that 5 times fast. And Pittsburgh gives up a massive chunk of their offensive production in opposing passing games to slot receivers. Jarvis Landry leading the team in targets since Baker Mayfield took over. Last game, the first game that they really connected on a bunch of passes, I could see that continuing moving forward, and a lot of production, as I said, being given up by the Steelers to opposing slot receivers. This week. Favorite value at wide receiver? I don't know. Let me get to that in a little bit, but Extra Crispy, thank you very much for the 2 months. Stud-Fi with the 500 bits for Cooper. Thank you very much. Odell Beckham Jr. is too cheap. Cooper. Way too cheap. Okay? As Adam said, he hasn't been this cheap in 2 years. He's not, everybody's afraid of Eli, but like, has Eli or any problems with Eli caused any problems here with Odell Beckham? No. So Odell Beckham Jr. at 7,500, also too cheap. I like Adams. I don't love him as much as I did with Cobb and Allison out. AJ Green, one of my favorite wide receivers this week, and then I'll probably have shares of Hill and Brown, but less so than most weeks. Give me AJ Green, give me Adams, give me Beckham, give me Landry, give me Woods. Now let me get to whatever else happened here. D. Dameron for 100 bits says, just asking for thoughts and prayers as I fade all Chiefs in cash. Rip you. Filling up Cooper. Thank you very much for the other 100 bits. Moving into the number 3 slot on the week. And I like that little Aqua Smiz badge next to your name too. Cooper gonna eat. Yep. Even when he's injured, Cooper Cup, he's gonna eat. He's right there. Baldwin in GPP seems to be going under the radar this week. Looked healthy before the bye. Okay.
Time to print money.
I like doing that. It's fun. Thank you very much. I'm busy that weekend for the 2 months. Yeah, 8 targets in his last game for Doug Baldwin with 91 yards. You guys know how I feel about bad coaching staffs, right? Like the coaching staff in Arizona, what they're doing in Seattle. It's like I can't predict bad coaching staffs. Do I like Funchess, Baldwin, or Galladay more from the 5K range? Probably. I know I like Galladay more than most. I like the way that Seattle's defense sets up for outside wide receivers. And Galladay is an absolute monster. So I prefer him. I could understand Baldwin there and then Funchess. Green or T.Y. Hilton. Green and T.Y. Hilton or OBJ Woods. I think that Green is the best wide receiver of that pairing of 4. but give me the group of of OBJ and Woods. Is Aaron Jones going to get the ball? Don't know. Landry or Boyd on FD? I'll take Landry. Better play in cash between AJ and Boyd with 1,300 difference. If I can get up to AJ Green, I'm going for AJ Green. Give me the talent. Speaking of 5K, Gabriel, DT, or Cobb. DT, then Gabriel, then Cobb. Galladay, a cash player, more GPP. I prefer him more for GPP. I don't think you need him for cash with all the value that's opened up at RB2, RB3. I think you kind of want to play the stud running backs like we talked about. Play the good wide receivers that are, one or two of those that are 6,800 or above, and then look for one value guy and play a value tight end, cheapish QB. I don't think it's a team jam them in week at running back. I think that most people are going to have about 21 to 22K spent at running back in one way or another. A good lineup for tournaments, though. Watch this, though. Because everybody's going to pay up at running back, right? So everybody's going to be going for, let's say, Gurley, Connor, Mixon, Hunt, and one of these cats in here, right? Lindsey or Johnson, right? So what if you fade the running backs for tournaments? What if you fade the top ones and you go here, here, and again, you'd put the latest playing player in your flex, but not, whatever. There, and then here for tournaments, right? And then you got all this money, right, to spend on wide receivers to differentiate from all the lineups that are going to have probably something like this, and this. If I can find them. Where'd you go? This. Right? I think that's going to be extremely popular this weekend. Did you see the difference in the average remaining salary per player? You're talking about 4,500, which is going to be a very typical cash game build, in my opinion, this week, as opposed to the other one, which had 6K, essentially remaining 59 and change. So getting differentiation, sometimes you just have to go against the build that everybody else goes with. You'd still have good plays, but if everybody's spending up in a position, you spend down. It's a great way to be contrarian in tournaments without going off the crazy thing. You were thinking about Crowell and Cash, too crazy there? No, I don't think so. I think he's going to get, between 15 and 22 touches. Where exactly he lands, I don't know. I don't think he's going to get massive usage in the passing game because he just never has been that guy. Whether he can't do it or whether they just don't trust him to do it, it is what it is. So, realistically speaking, I think he is cash game viable at the price because what do you really need? If you get 2 catches and 85 yards from scrimmage, he gets you 11.5 points for 3.7K. That ain't bad. Chiefs defense worth a look? Yeah, at home, I don't mind them. Rashard, Crowell, Duke. Yeah, something along those lines. Duke Johnson for that third guy in there for tournaments. I'm fine with any of those builds if you want to build, a tournament lineup. I could see people doing this in cash too. If they're like, you know what, I'm just going to fade and just go here and here and then here, right? And save the money that way, right? Like Johnson or Lindsey, whatever. Just say they're going to do that, right? If they don't want 2 running backs from the same game. Then they have 5K remaining. They have a little bit more they can spend up at wide receiver and do whatever they want. I think there's a lot of different routes to go this week, and I like weeks where there's a lot of different routes to go. I think those are great tournament weeks because it's very easy to overweight the field in certain spots. AJ Odell equals Yum. Yeah. I'll take 25 targets out of my top 2 wide receivers in a full PPR situation where I can still more than likely get my 70 touches out of the 3 running backs that I play. This is a great week. Any love for Herndon? He had a good week. Think his volume stays there? Everybody's looking at this, right? And they're saying, wow, look at that. 14 fantasy points a game for 2 straight weeks. They didn't look at this. He had 2 targets. Here, yes, very good. If that role stays closer to this, then I think he's fine. I do think he's a cheaper version of CJ Uzoma. right? You're getting the same sort of guy who's had that sort of supply, right? He could post zeros, or he could post 5 catches. You know? Like, there's been a lot of games where he's had 2 or less targets. That's my issue with Herndon. Boyd is elite GPP play and AJ leverage. Do not disagree at all. It's a good point. Have we discussed Mac? I feel like we haven't talked about Mac for week 8. I think he's in there. I think he's definitely in play. It seems like all the running backs this week are bunched, right? So we've got this triumvirate right here, Connor, Mixon, Hunt, in this same price range. And then we have Mac, Johnson, Lindsay in the same exact price range. Again, you want to build a tournament lineup? Which ones are going to be the lowest owned? Okay, so Connor, so look, watch this. Here, Mixon will probably be the lowest owned. And of these 3, Mac will probably be the lowest owned. Look at there. There's a tournament lineup. That's very similar to the Gurley, Connor, Lindsay, or KJ lineup. Right? Very similar in price. Very similar in volume, too. But you're going to have what? Barkley will be maybe 5% owned. Mixon will be 12 to 15% owned max. And Mac will be like massive, like 5 or 8. Like, people aren't playing these guys. Because of the prices, you can leverage the field, guys. You have to start thinking in that way about building your tournament lineups. Can we not watch this Sunday and just go to brunch? Why don't we go to brunch at a place that has TVs? You know? I'm all about, like, it's the same thing I tweeted out earlier this week, but Gurley is, you know, when it was Gurley's the MVP was kind of the talk. Is Gurley the MVP of the league? And people said, how can he be the MVP when he's just in a good system and any running back could do that? How about he's a great running back who's also in a great system that's allowing him to score all these touchdowns? Wouldn't that be okay? How about we don't have to pick a side there? How about brunch is delicious and football is really fun to watch? Why don't we do both? Think about it. How much higher is Mixon's projection now that Quan Alexander is out? I mean, I think everybody, guys, it's like point of percentages. You know, like if he was projected at like 13 or whatever, like if you had his projection like 13 or 17 points or whatever you have him at, like, well, now this defender's out. Okay, now he's at like 17.08. Like it doesn't move it all that much. Don't yell at me. I'll yell at whoever I want. This is my stream, damn it. Is Levitan as quirky as he comes off on the podcast? I think he plays it up. Kind of turns the volume up on that. Just like, you know, I'm pretty much who I am. But like, obviously, when the lights are on, I'm that and the volume's turned up a little bit more. But like, I'm as silly on off air as I am on air. It's just the type of person that I am. He's kind of quirky on air, so he's kind of quirky off air. But he plays it up just like I play it up a little bit. It's what you do. Yeah, if Doyle's back, I don't know that I want Ebron. Especially with Doyle and Hilton coming back. He was getting fed targets because the 2 massive target guys were gone. Now, him being back, his market share will go back down to like probably 8 to 12% instead of 20. Who do you enjoy beating the most in the 4-man? It's just fun to win it. I don't have anything against either of those guys or the listeners. No talk about T.Y. I mean, he's fine. What is the listener league at, by the way? How many people are in the listener league right now? Somebody let me know. Allison and Cash, pretty cheap and taken off the injury report. What's his price? 5,000. I think there's better plays in that range, but I think he's sneaky. Chubb doesn't catch the ball at all. And on the road, in what should be a negative game script situation, a negative game flow situation, meaning that Cleveland should be playing from behind for a good chunk of this game unless stuff happens. If Cleveland's playing from ahead or at home, I want as much Chubb as I can get on my lineups. But with them being on the road against a very talented offense and probably having to throw to keep up, this is a week where I'm going to have to dial down my exposure to Nick Chubb and maybe dial up some more exposure to Duke Johnson was the argument that I was making. So listener league's about halfway full. All right. Look, y'all want him to make it bigger. Y'all got to fill it. It's pretty much that simple. Am I playing NBA tonight? Yes. I've signed up to play NBA tonight. Because I get to be at my computer at lock, so I'm playing NBA. Do you see how opposing teams have big tight end production versus the Rams? Graham could be the, yeah. I mentioned him. I said he is one of the running backs, or one of the tight ends in play for me, though I do prefer Njoku at essentially the same price. I think they're 100 off. Winston Landry or Rogers Woods for cash. Rogers Woods, I think, is the better play. But I don't hate the other one at all. Where do you find the DFS Edge live video? That's the question that 7 people are asking pretty much every single week. I assume it exists somewhere on DraftKings Playbook. I'll be damned if I can find it. It's Dolph34. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. There's no cheap wide receiver value this week. You might have to run out Curse again. Yeah, it's thin. Under, like, once you get south of Crabtree, the wide receivers get a little bit thin. Jordy versus Martavis in cash, same price on FD. Martavis has more upside, in my opinion. Jordy has a higher floor. DK has a new video page. Okay. Any Panthers in play against the Ravens? It would be great if they, like, sent people to go watch the video. I think the video is fun. Like, you don't catch things on the audio. Like when Pete cussed this week. Because, like, Pete never cusses on the air. It's like Pete said something. He's like, rah, rah, and I went. You don't catch that on the audio. It's posted along with Levitt. Yeah, they use it as, like, an article topper. Like, the whole thing. Not the clips. Not the 1-minute clips. Because nothing says, like, hey, I would love to go read this article. Spend 3 or 4 minutes reading this article. I'll sit here for an hour watching this video when I only expected to be here for 3 minutes watching or reading this article. You post clips on top of articles. Not full videos, guys. Kaka, thank you for the 100 bits. Does that mean that that Crowell's going to do well since Kaka just gave Cooper Kupp 100 bits to chomp on? Do I color your beard to look like Richard Gere? No. It's all natural. I put nothing but juices and berries. Sutton for cash to help get the 3 big running backs. I don't hate that. Just realize that there is a low floor for Sutton. But you might be accessing a really high ceiling with the 3 high-priced running backs. So, like, it might all balance its way out, right? So I don't hate that. Britton, thank you very much for the 2 months. Time to roll out Larry Legend this week. I think he makes a very good tournament play. You're betting on the come here. You're betting that Leftwich changes the offense enough back to what Arians was doing to get the rookie quarterback Rosen to pepper Fitzgerald with targets and to get DJ involved on the outside. I put oil in there. I've got, like, shave oil, and I put that in there just to keep it soft. What throws me off is looking for Best Buys. It's a TMR video on top of it. I'm looking for your face. They don't have me doing any video. So, like, I actually wrote in my, like, when I send in the article, you send it in, like, all the editors, and then one of them picks it up. So I said, guys, I like the videos on top of the article. I think it's awesome. Can we find one that's talking about one of the players this week that's actually in my article? Otherwise, it can be misleading for the readers. And they said, yeah, I'll do what I can. Obviously, there's less video that comes out. There's more video that comes out Thursday and Friday from the podcast and comes out on Tuesday or Wednesday from the podcast. So we have a little more slim pickings earlier in the week when your article gets posted by Thursday morning. So they put up an article. They talked about Matt Stafford, who I wrote about in the article, but it's Matthew Berry talking about how he hates Matt Stafford this week, and I'm giving you arguments about why Matt Stafford's okay at his price this week. Here's a guy I hate. Al wrote about him. Damn it! A healthy Geronimo in cash this week. I don't hate it. Put Al on Fantasy Focus again. That would be fun. I did enjoy it. I told you guys how I ran bad last year on the Focus podcast, right? When you look at it from a year-over-year thing, every other year, even this year, they record the podcast at 8 a.m. Pacific time. This year and previous years. 8 a.m. Pacific time to 9 a.m. Pacific time. It's broadcast live on Twitter. You can watch the video. Last year, because that was the first year that Matthew had the fantasy show, and that taped at noon Eastern, which meant 9 a.m. Pacific, which meant that from 10 Eastern, he had to start like storyboarding for the episode and prepping to do his daily show. That meant that the podcast taping got pushed to 8 a.m. Eastern, which is 5 a.m. Pacific time, which meant that for my Thursday hit on that podcast, I was waking up at 5 a.m. every Thursday to be able to just get my 15-minute segment on that podcast. A mess. That the 1 year I'm on the podcast is the 1 year it's not happening at a human hour. I ran so bad with that. Barry versus Yates for a GPP. I mean, Barry's going to be higher owned. Does Watkins have enough upside for GPP? Yes. Love this 0600 when you were on it. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. It was a fun podcast to be a part of. I really enjoyed myself. I really enjoyed the inclusion on that podcast for daily fantasy. Both, I mean, obviously for me, and then obviously I love that daily fantasy was getting integrated into something that's as widespread as the Focus. Cook officially out. Yes. Martavis Bryant or Crowell for DK Cash? I'll take Crowell. I like Bryant for tournaments this week, though. At least you got the LA Smooth nickname. That's where Smizzle came from. My poker name was Al Smooth. And I changed it to Smizzle once I got Xbox Live. Because somebody already had Al Smooth, so I changed it to Al Smizzle, and then it just stuck. Stefania Bell knows her stuff. She does. Craziest story. Like my first week that I was at ESPN in Bristol, it was 2015. It was week 2 or week 3. And I had a question about an injury. I'm sitting there in a cubicle because they just gave me a random empty cubicle to sit at and work during the day. And I had done the Focus podcast that morning. And I'm there and I'm like, I have an injury question. Stefania Bell's right there. I'm going to go ask Stefania Bell an injury question about a player that I want to write about for Best Buys this week. Most surreal situation to my fantasy life at that point. DJ Moore cash game viable. No, not enough volume for me. Pete with some inside info on the Action Network pod. What inside info? You got to you can't just say that. Tell me what happened. You have 6K average for 3 wide receivers. You're hating it because Woods is the cheapest guy that you like. Yeah. Woods is going to be very highly owned this week. Alex Erickson, GPP punt if John Ross is out. I'd rather focus on the volume guys. Give me Boyd and give me AJ Green. And give me Mixon. He's going to be involved as well. Do I think Anthony Miller is in play with the massive amount of points the Jets give up? For GPP, yes. For cash, no. Oh, on Chad Kelly. Interesting. Yeah, Pete's kind of plugged in. Y'all have any more questions, or have we handled it all? Too many podcasts. I agree. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of content that people can get, and I appreciate you guys continuing to tune into my podcast, my videos here on YouTube, my Twitch stream, reading the articles that I put out. There's a lot of choices that you guys have for content, and I appreciate you coming back day after day, week after week, to visit this channel. So thank you guys very much for the support. If you're still here, please click the like button on this video. Subscribe button's right there. Here's another video for you guys to check out. And I'll be live Sunday morning for the last 45 minutes before NFL kicks off right on Twitch. The address is right down below in the description. See you there. Bye.